Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sher Vancouver podcast. We have Ritesh Matlani here with us. Hi, Ritesh.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Looking beautiful.
Thank you. I'm
Handsome.
trying.
Love that floral design piece on you.
Yeah, I was like, let's wear a dried palm leaf to this podcast and make a statement.
There we go.
It's a little bit of color, a little bit of joy that I like to wear on me. So yeah, here I am.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
That'll be your lucky charm for today.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So Ritesh here is a Surrey-based queer filmmaker, storyteller, and floral designer. We had the chance to meet Ritesh at our Sher Vancouver monthly meetup where he led a wreath workshop, which we'll get into the episode. But Ritesh, we would love to jump right into it and
let's do it.
Go deep. We're going deep.
Yeah, get to know ya.
Can you tell us about your origin story, meaning where were you born and how did you end up in Canada here today?
Born to a Sindhi family in Dubai. So big Indian family and comes with all its pros and cons. I went to an Indian school that was influenced by a British curriculum. And growing up, life was about good grades, extracurriculars, parents' expectations of you doing well in school. I was a pretty effeminate kid and I was bullied a lot, called gay and all kinds of slurs in school. But I think I got through that time by being meritorious. Like I was always the good student. And I think a lot of us queer people do that. We try and excel in all these things in our lives so our sexuality doesn't get questioned and analyzed. And somehow, my interest in media and, just Bollywood and all of that took me to Mumbai to do media studies. And I was in Mumbai for a bit. And it was an age I was glamour struck, by Bollywood, by celebrity culture, Indian media, fashion. And India was all of that, but it wasn't sustainable for me. I thought I was going for a million possibilities of freedom. But, with extended family who I really love, I met some amazing people that are my friends even today. But it still wasn't the place. I just felt like this isn't where I think I can sustain and make the life I envision. It was the first place I started to be gay, and I was really excited about it, meeting people in the community. But I also saw the repercussions of living your truth. Yeah, I kind of came back to Dubai midway of my studies, and I took that to heart as quite a failure. Trying to finish my studies in Dubai and not being able to finish things in Mumbai. And I got to work pretty quickly from media education. I dabbled in some industries like publishing, advertising. So it was always about storytelling with like a visual or a film element, like a design element. My early 20s was very family oriented. I was between work and family. I didn't date for all of my 20s. So, late bloomer.
Yep.
And I was going down this toxic corporate rabbit hole, and I felt older in my 20s than I feel today, and somehow I was like, I'm going to give all this up and go to film school. So I kind of gave up the corporate life and I was like, I'm going to wrap up and go to film school and live the dream. So I went to Europe in 2014 to Prague Film School for a summer workshop where I made my first short film. It was really kooky. It was European. We were learning about European filmmakers. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to make something nobody understands, but it's fun. Did that. And because I was in Prague, my mom suggested, Beta, Europe bhoom kara, like do your DDLJ trip.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm going to meet Raj somewhere. Obviously, that was in my head. But yeah, I went all through Europe and I had beautiful queer experiences. It really was my coming of age.
Wow.
I had my first ever Pride Parade in Amsterdam.
Nice.
And like to go from nothing to Amsterdam Pride, like I amped it up right away.
Yeah.
And it was such a culture shock. It was so beautiful.
Yeah.
And just, I was walking the beaches in Barcelona with this gorgeous Italian man on a date. I met this beautiful Irish guy in the south of France, and we were eating fried octopus at the time. So, there were all these beautiful experiences.
Yeah.
And I kind of knew that, okay, there's a formula here. There's a way to get out, which I think a lot of queer people are always looking for. What is that hook that'll get me out of where I am and move towards the life I want?
Yeah.
And so I was like, film was it, and a new career path. And then Vancouver ticked all the boxes. And so in 2015, I landed in Canada to go to film school here. And that's kind of my journey to Canada.
And are you happy with your decision?
Oh my God, I don't think I could be happier. Like, of course, as international students, as immigrants, we all go through our struggles. It's not a piece of cake. It's not a bed of roses. But I think if you persist and have the right support, it can be amazing.
I was listening to your podcast, and you were saying that, that things are changing and evolving, and our experiences make us change our perspectives over time, and we're not situated in one mindset for such a long time. What has your experience been like being an international student and settling down? And we can touch on it now or later as well, because I know you also showed that within the movie Nana as well.
Yeah. I think being an international student here, it's very different for everyone. I think your background really equips you. I come from some privilege, so I'm really grateful being exposed to travel and, understanding how visa processes and applications and how generally, university applications, all of that kind of trains you to be a bit more worldly, I would say.
Yeah.
And then a lot of our South Asian brothers and sisters are coming from smaller towns where they don't have the exposure before they get here, and they're thrown into the deep end. So my experience was a bit more refined, where I could make choices based on where my life had brought me. And that's not the same for a lot of international students. It's a survival game for rent, our assignments, our degree, then the work permit, then your permanent residency. There's always a milestone that you need to get to after you achieve a milestone. There's never a celebration of it, There's always, oh, what's the next thing to do? Because we're so scared to go back, where we come from.
100%, yeah.
So...
but where does that fear come from? You're saying we're fearful of going back.
I think it's just because, I say this often, not everyone is born where they belong. Mm-hmm. And for me, I've not had a sense of belonging for most of my life, being born and raised in Dubai, you don't get the citizenship. You're an Indian citizen. I wasn't born and raised in India, so I didn't have that connection with the motherland to say.
Right.
And then, living in India felt like it was so busy. There was no foot space for another person to step in and kind of carve their own niche. So I didn't feel a sense of belonging in Dubai. I didn't feel a sense of belonging in India. So we're always looking like, where is home for us? Where do we settle down? And so going back, the fear of going back is because there's nothing to go back to. There's no going back in the closet. There's no going back to who you were. And I think that fear just keeps us moving forward and trying to accomplish the next thing that we need to do to stay here legally and within the system. It's about learning the system, adapting to it, and mastering it, which takes years for so many of us. So yeah, I absolutely empathize with international students because of my own journey. My first landlords were homophobic. And when they found out, they asked me to leave.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And they were extremely rude to my mother when she was staying with me to settle me in. When I landed with my parents, I was a victim of a rental scam. So I sent money for an apartment that did not exist.
Oh no.
And it was the most stupid I had felt in my entire life. And to see my parents come here with me, their first time in the West, all three of us, first time in the West, we've landed and we've been scammed and we need to find a place to go tonight.
Yeah.
So I didn't know who to report to. I didn't know how cybercrime things worked here. It was just so unsettling. And my poor parents, I put them through so much, just trying to help me not sink into this darkness. So I can imagine if that can happen to me. It's happened to a lot of international students, and they get scammed for money to get, a permit or a letter, and it happens a lot from our own people.
Yeah.
I've been avoiding South Asian people when I moved here because, you left home, you left all that familiarity. So I was constantly trying to assimilate to whiteness.
Yeah.
But I can imagine it's hard for a lot of international students to cope with that.
100%. I think a lot of people do get scammed with like what happened with you with your rental. Are like, just them being so mean and rude, like the landlords to international students, right? And I see that on a day-to-day basis, like just hearing from people, from like friends or cousins or whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh, like why are they so mean? We're all human at the end of the day, and we all need a space, right, to like live, thrive, whatever it may be, to hang out in or whatnot. But I am glad that they are bringing stories like this to the forefront with like 5X, and that you guys were able to attend. And I was really sad that I wasn't able to check that out.
Yeah, and I think there should be more such panels and conversations.
Yes.
I wish there were more international students present. I think the work has started with like facts and figures coming to light. And, services being offered by nonprofit organizations that are doing such good work. So I think it just needs to carry on, and we just need to make the people aware, the government aware. We need to push for policy. I think these were some main points of discussion at the panel. And it was quite like an emotional trigger for me, because I had my head down a lot because I was reminiscing all of that I had experienced. But, I'm really thankful that those experiences also made me who I am today.
100%. Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway from the event for people, because I know you were saying it'd be nice for more students, but I think for us born with the privilege of being born here, attending that event made us more aware. Because for Canadians who are born here, even though we're Punjabi and most of the students immigrating are from Punjab, they have a bad rep. It's like, oh, the students are doing this, the students are taking the jobs, the students are making a mess. But then having 5X to host these events shines a light, like, they're here and they're struggling. What can we do? Like you said, South Asian brothers and sisters, how can we help them? And that, I think having that dialogue and us talking about it right now, because even a lot of the members of Sher Van now who come to the events, if you notice, are majority students.
Yeah, and they're looking for an outlet. They're looking for a safe space to be able to talk and share their experiences. And, I feel like a sense of kinship. Like, I feel like I'm the older brother, or however they want to see me, and that I can prevent them from doing things. Like, I wish I had someone when I moved here. I had someone who was like a mentor.
For sure.
On the way back from the 5X panel, I was mentioning this to my Uber driver, and he mentioned that he makes about an average $600 a month from international students alone.
Oh, wow.
So international students are a source of income for people who drive Ubers and taxis and restaurants and services. A lot of people have become wealthy in real estate because they have students that they can rent their spaces out to. So, students are mortgage helpers. And these are people whose parents back home have given up everything to move them here,
Yeah. So to sum it up, we need our students.
Yeah, we need them, and we need better services and better policy.
For sure. 100%. Sal's BC is a good one.
Yeah.
For all the listeners too, because I think we've done a few kind of workshops around like the legalities that for students to be able to understand what should you be getting paid, and like can they get in trouble for doing this X, Y, and Z? You need breaks, etc. It's a lawyer firm, right?
Yeah. And they were there at the event.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. I didn't know that, but I know that we've worked alongside them as well with Sher Vancouver, which is amazing to help other students to better understand what their rights are here.
Yeah. So and it would be nice if communication went back home, like back to India. It's funny how I say went back home. This is also home. But, it would be nice if communication went back to India and spaces there where students could know that there's someone here waiting for them to help them, to guide them, to show them the way. And I think that's what was my struggle as well. Like I didn't know who to reach out to over here. And I think Sher Vancouver is such a great platform for queer immigrants, queer students, and just being more out there. And even by you guys, putting this word out there and having a podcast just lets people listen and understand stories and put perspectives, in place.
So if you're listening and you're wanting to move to Canada, you can reach out, especially BC, we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. Find us wherever and we'll help you out.
Yeah, 100%. That's what we're here for.
So Ritesh, let's jump back into your film work.
Mm-hmm.
I know we went on a journey here, but all important conversations. But we want to know and celebrate you as well and your film work. I know you talked about you went to school in Prague and you got to do different work. How did you, where did that stem from, you would say? How does one choose to go into film work?
I think, it really depends on your passions. I was obsessed and glued to Bollywood growing up,
Favorite actor?
Oh, that's hard. Don't say that. Don't ask me that.
Our actress?
I used to really like Randeep Hooda.
Oh.
Really good performer and such a good looker.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are so many great performers. But I think I kind of grew up mesmerized by, the grandeur of Sanjay Leela Bhansali movies. Karan Johar's family dramas were always people would get together and watch it. I used to love Vishal Bhardwaj's dark take on Shakespeare and that he made so desi. Ashutosh Govarkar, Swades was one of my favorite films because it was the first time I was watching a Bollywood movie that made me really think about the choices we make. And, the whole idea, because I was waiting to go abroad and here's a protagonist that wants to come back home and contribute back into his community.
Right.
So these were filmmakers that really made me think. And I was just naturally drawn to storytelling. I was drawn to the beauty that was on the screen and the world building. And somehow, and then I discovered there were European filmmakers because media studies, films was part of my education. And so that exposed me to storytelling. And film kind of became this platform where you could say or do and be anything. Just because you're in film, you can be provocative, you can raise issues, you can do anything, and it was because you're a filmmaker. Yeah. I remember going to watch French films with my mom, and they were so provocative, and it was embarrassing because she was sitting right next to me.
Did she cover your eyes?
No, but on our way back, she was like, but you're a filmmaker, you're an artist, you should know everything. You know how Desi parents try to hide. Yeah. I remember trying to watch James Bond on DVD and dad would start chasing us to bed because you could tell the sex scene was coming up.
Oh.
And he'd be like, time ho gaya, so jao, and all of that stuff. And, you could tell the tensions were building because the sex scene was just around the corner.
Yeah.
So, we weren't exposed to Hollywood because it was progressive or too sexual. And then when I started to get exposed to all these stories, I was like, this is the platform. This is where you can do anything. This is where I can come out without coming out.
So 007 did it for you.
Yeah.
So running through. I mean, I don't know. We used to have to fast forward. Even till this day, I fast forward.
I still do, just because I'm like, nope.
I'm like, awkward. So I'm like, fast forward.
But, that's how we grew up.
Yeah,
where it was, our exposures were limited because parents were scared about what we were going to watch. And somehow, one thing led to the other. Film was always part of media studies, and I got introduced to queer cinema. And then I started watching these beautiful films, Stranger by the Lake, Farewell My Concubine, My Beautiful Laundrette, Maurice, all these beautiful films. And I remember when YouTube became a thing, I was always trying to look for cute gay montages. They'll have a cute montage of gay love stories and TV shows and movies, edited to a Savage Garden song, Truly Madly Deeply.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh my God, that's so cute. I want that, etc.
Oh my gosh,
so,
I feel like I did the same.
Yeah. We all do it.
Yeah.
Sharon, you're watching Blue is the Warmest Color over it.
Definitely.
When it came out. I love that movie too.
That movie scared me. That was the first exposure. I was like, nope.
Yeah, right? So
oh my God.
A lot of these movies do scare you, but they
Yeah.
also kind of I think the exposure to these different types of storytelling was great.
Yeah.
And then, that's how I got into it, and then learning that we had Satyajit Ray, Guru Dutt, Raj Kapoor's cinema was always big in my household. We were always talking about how he was path breaking in his time with women's issues and all of that, you know. So I kind of felt like, oh, I can be a filmmaker because I come from a Sindhi family. Like it's all about business, it's all about money, and like art was never a focus. I was the first kid in my family who graduated in science, and most of my family was offended when I chose to study biology. And they were like, bio padh ke kya karega? You have to do business.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, no, I'm gonna like study biology. Well, it didn't lead to anywhere, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think film was always this like, yeah, I'm gonna be a filmmaker. And parents were like, not sure, kya karega, hero banega, and all of that. And making Nana, you know, coming back to my first directorial short debut, when I was making Nana in Mumbai, my family came to set. And it was the first time they could see all those years of wanting to be a filmmaker, what it led to.
Right.
So that's kind of how, you know, like it's a mix of stories and experiences. And I just felt like film was my getaway to say things I didn't have the courage to say directly at the time.
We noticed that your films really kind of center around a lot of diversity and immigrants of BIPOC and LGBTQ experiences as well and communities. But can you tell us why you've chose to kind of go down that path with your filmmaking?
You know, they say you should write what you know. And a few years ago, I was at a film festival, and a friend of mine who's a producer in town, he told me that, you know, he asked me, Ritesh, what are your USPs? Like, what are your unique selling points? What makes you you? And we landed on some like broader themes where I'm a queer immigrant. So queer, person of color, immigration, these should always be underlying themes because people buy you before they buy your work. You know, you have to be able to believe in it. You have to be able to sell yourself and like, you know, transfer that faith of that story that you have into others.
Yeah.
And,
Very true.
you know,
Very
he told
true,
me
yeah.
that, you know, anything you do, don't do it to impress someone else because, you know, this producer is will be impressed or
Right.
whatever. Like stick to who you are. It's going to take a while till it flourishes or till it gets picked up. And I'm still not there yet. You know, I'm still in the process of, you know, finding my expression as a queer filmmaker. But I think write what you know, make what you can really connect with. And BIPOC experiences, queer experiences, immigrant stories, these are really close to my heart because I've lived them and I have friends in the community that have lived all this. So it just makes
Makes
it
sense.
just feels it makes
feels
sense.
right. Yeah.
It feels right.
No, and it does resonate in all the films that we were able to watch. Like they were all really super deep and you just felt really connected to them. I mean, I'm just thinking like, who would you want to collaborate with if you had the choice in film?
I mean, I would love to work with Meera Nair. Like when The Namesake came out and I was watching it, you know, for the first time I saw Indian diaspora represented in this beautiful way that was so true. It was so vulnerable and real. And Meera Nair's movies are in all the mood boards that I do when I'm working on a new film. You know, like I take a lot from her work. Her masterclass is amazing. And I've watched it like 5 times.
Oh, we gotta get on that.
You know, and you know, there's a out and proud Bollywood filmmaker, O'Neill. I really love his work. I would love to work with Ryan Murphy and Michael Patrick King, you know, creators of really great queer and female-driven stories. Yeah, these are people I would love to work with.
Yeah.
And there's so many amazing people in Surrey, in Vancouver. You know, I feel this rising, emerging group of POC, BIPOC creators and storytellers. And, you know, we're all getting connected somehow, like stuff's coming up and people are collaborating and, you know, artists are campaigning to get paid for their work. So there's this rising movement And I feel so blessed to be part of it
Yeah.
because it's just, simmering and it's so exciting.
Since the pandemic, I feel people have gone towards their passion.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a shift.
I
I would
agree.
say.
Like 7 years in Vancouver, things have changed so much.
Drastically.
And, even as in film school, it was about making that big feature for cinematic release. But now it's about making that indie film that gets on streaming, like that gets on an OTT platform. Like even the way we approach film and art has changed. And the way our community is now approaching BIPOC voices,
Yes.
it dramatically changed as a result of Black Lives Matter.
Drastically,
Yes.
yeah.
That was really a paradigm shift in the way the world views the marginalized storyteller.
100%.
So Ritesh, you said you love to share stories that mean something to you. So let's jump into your first short film you produced, Nana. So I know it has an emotional connection to you. I know for this episode we are referring to a lot of films you've made and people haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So can you really walk our audience or our listeners into what Nana is about? And
Yeah, for sure. Nana is a short film about a young man who returns home after the passing of his grandfather. And when he's back home, he's, taken into this nostalgic journey of all these moments he shared with his grandfather. And it's sort of a coming of age where grandfather has left him something, has left him a legacy, and how he's going to really celebrate his life moving forward. So I wrote that from a personal experience because I was stuck in Canada due to immigration reasons, between my study permit and my work permit. I had my ticket booked to go back because my Nana was unwell. He was battling the last stages of cancer. And my passport didn't arrive on time. And the day I was supposed to fly was the day he passed. I made it for his last rites, but I had never experienced grief of this magnitude in my life because it was the first time I lost someone I was close to and I loved. And I just didn't know how to process it because, as South Asians, we don't talk about grief. We don't learn about coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
And there was film. I feel like film has always been a coping mechanism of some sort, watching a film that inspires me or uplifts me or makes me go into a sorrow, that I can just, kind of enjoy the self-pity and the self-loathing. That's a thing that we feel sometimes. And I used, so I wrote the short film based on my personal experiences and then I shelved it for about a year and a half. And in 2019, when I traveled to Mumbai, my best friend Gauri in Mumbai, she's a producer and she got a crew and a cast together. We got a location. We shot for 4 days with a local crew. I got the music composed in India. I had it edited over here. And yeah, that's kind of how I made that film because it was to cope with my grief. And it helped my family as well tremendously because my family made it to set when I was filming.
Awesome.
So finally they were able to see what I do as a filmmaker, and my Nani was there. And the actor that was playing my Nana was dressed exactly like my Nana, so she got so emotional. And they were seeing me in like this, I was ADing my film and directing it and producing it. So they saw me in like full filmmaker mode. And it was a very tiring day, but the film turned out beautiful. It premiered in Chicago, and my mom traveled with me to the premiere of the film because it was about her dad.
Right.
So it was such a fun time. Like, I feel like, just putting my story out there, making something from the heart, making something out of your grief, just drew so many people to us to have a conversation.
yeah.
And I feel like through that film, more was sent my way in abundance. The film ends with a line that says, "Okay, beta, be happy," which was actually the last message my Nana sent me on WhatsApp before his passing. And I also have it tattooed on my body.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, the film should end with that line. So there's so much personal meaning in this film for me and my family. And I actually came out in the film as well, but a lot of people, queer people, could spot the line.
I spotted it.
Oh,
Right?
can you tell me the line?
So
Clearly,
it was so
someone
interesting
there.
because my entire family saw it, extended relatives saw it in India. Everyone congratulated me. They were so happy that my Nana was forever immortalized through this film. But it was only my queer friends who spotted that line when I came out. Because in my Nana's passing, he kind of became the first person to know about my truth because I was still in the closet at the time.
Right.
And I felt this accountability to communicate with him that I'm so sorry I wasn't able to share my truth with you, but I'm going to make this film about you. And in this film, I'm going to express my truth cinematically and poetically.
It was
So-
such a beautiful film, and like hearing you talk step by step. I know I'm getting teary, you're getting teary.
I know
Yeah, it's
I get
such a
emotional
healing
every
work.
time. Yeah. And that's what it heals you, you know,
Yeah,
like making that
100%.
film.
For your whole family too.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a journey and a process to go through too. Like obviously it's a lived experience, and like you're bringing that to film, and your whole family was there at the set. Like that must have been such an amazing experience as well at the same time, you know?
Yeah, and you know, it's a full circle moment because, you know, as artists, you know, when we choose these career paths, we're trying our entire youth to explain to our parents that I know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
believe me, I know where I'm going. Yes, I will get a paycheck. Yes, I will be able to
Yeah.
pay my rent. Don't worry about it, you know.
And
Such
the
a
funny
fear
thing
of-
is,
yeah.
the first film was about your family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, it was inspired by my Nana, and
Yeah.
it was about my family, and it brought everyone together. You know, like my cousins were able to talk about it. They were able to talk about instances and moments that were inspired from real life. So the film went so beyond just a festival jury's judgment, you know. Like I didn't think I needed that. Because after the Chicago screening, my mom and I were sitting at a restaurant close to the screening, like after the screening, and this man comes up with his kid and speaks to my mother and says, "You should be so proud that your son made that film." Stranger,
Yay.
out of the blue.
Amazing.
And he said, you know, it reminded me of my grandparents, and it's so close to the story of so many of us as immigrants because of what we leave behind. And I cannot emphasize that enough, that we don't leave home because we want to. We have to for a better life.
Yeah.
We leave all the comfort, all the love, the luxuries, if there are, to come here and start from scratch. And there are so many immigrants who've been doing that for decades now.
Yes.
And they could connect with the film in that moment because we've all lost people
Yeah.
and not been able to go back. We know friends in our community
Yes.
who've recently lost parents and haven't been able to go back,
Yeah.
you know? So for me, it's always, you know, it's a reality, and I just wish more people were aware of it.
100%. Oh, I feel so like gushy inside right now because, yeah, it's like I don't even know how to express it or like explain it in this podcast, but I just feel a certain way. I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully I can share it with people at a platform. Like I get lazy about these things.
Maybe a
where, you
Sher
know,
Vancouver screening.
I was
Just-
gonna say
yeah,
solid state.
Yeah.
You know, I will find a way to share the film because, you know, there are people who get critical about it as well. You know, when they're looking at it from a film lens, you know, there shouldn't be so much music. You should have edited it that way. And it kind of just takes you out of the emotion of why I made the film.
Yeah, that's probably what your mind is saying, but
I
I
know.
think we
You're being
watched
your
it and
biggest
you're
critic
you're
again.
being
I know.
yeah.
We,
But it's such a great film,
Yeah.
and like the message is so clear, and I think so many people can resonate with it, like you said. And you won an award for that as well, right?
it was, I think, audience choice of some kind. But yeah, you know, I think the accolades kind of can fade into the background, and it's really what the film stands for. And it was my next film that really kind of allowed me to elevate my game and get a bit more provocative.
Let's get into that next film.
So yeah, let's get into it. The Two Colors of Jahan. That was also another amazing film that you had done. Why don't you walk us through it? I can talk about it as well, but we'd love to hear you speak about it and share with our audience.
I think for me, every time I make a short film, I'm trying to say something. I'm trying to share how I'm feeling at the time. And both my short films so far, the ones that I produced and directed, I produced a lot of films for other people as well. But the films that I produced and directed and wrote were directly taken from the grief and the agony I was experiencing at the time. So I was at the South Asian Film Festival representing Nana, and I showed up looking fly with my nails painted. And my mom saw photos of that on social media.
Right.
And she was upset because I didn't tell anyone I was going to paint my nails for the first time ever. So we had an argument, and she said something on the lines of, I raised you as a good Hindu boy. Please go and take that off. And I was like, have you seen how decorated our gods are?
Right.
Like, you have an issue with me putting on nail polish? I was so mad at the argument I had. And I had this script sitting in my drawer, which was based on, kind of the gay hookup culture and dating scene locally. But I wanted to bring it home. I wanted to really add in the real story. And so I wrote in a mother's character into this short film that was based on this argument I had with my mom, who's not seen the film.
You went 0 to 100 from her.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Two Colors of Jahan is about a closeted South Asian artist that he is using his gay dating experiences and the exploration of Hindu mythology for his next exhibition. And in between two encounters with beautiful men, he has to get on an obligatory call with his mother because it's holy.
Yeah.
So, it happens to a lot of us where, we live double lives. We want to be that good kid that knows the Gayatri Mantra, that wants to celebrate the festivals because it means so much. At the same time, we are sexual beings. We do want to love. We do want to be with someone. We do want to express ourselves.
We want to live our lives, right?
Right?
Yeah.
So it was really about exploring how our spirituality and our sexualities can live in harmony. And that was the result of, that exploration was the film that I made, Two Colors of Jahan.
And for audience listening, you were in it, like you were the actor.
Yeah, at
That's
the time,
why we feel like we're starstruck right now.
Well, the thing is that, my really good friend, Panta Mosley, was my co-director. And we kept looking for actors and kept looking for people to play the part. And she kind of convinced me and coaxed me into believing that, hey, it's your story. You're the best person to play it. I'll walk you through it. So I went into 3 weeks of hardcore training with her and, all the tricks she was giving me to really get into character, to really take from my own experiences. It was very method. I was set on dates with both my actors.
Oh,
amazing.
So I could get to know them
personally.
So the chemistry that you saw on the film was dates.
Real
Dates we went on so we could get to know each other. And then I went on a coffee date with Nutanji, who plays my mom. And, she and I got to know each other. I got to know her about her family, her kids. And she got to know about my relationship with my mother so she could kind of embody that.
Yeah.
So, there was a lot of work that went into making this and kind of bringing those characters to life. And because it's such a colorful film, there's so much art, there's so much nudity in the film. It was just interesting to juxtapose, the belief systems we grew up with because when you look into Hinduism and when you read about a lot of, I actually went to the Vancouver Library and I was reading books on Hinduism and Hindu mythology. And the fact that so many of our gods are transgender.
Yes.
I love
So
that
many-
you shared
Yeah,
that.
100%.
So many of our gods are gender fluid, and it's all situational, you know, like to save the world. Yes, Vishnu did transform himself into a woman to save the world.
Yeah.
And so it just gives you context to where drag comes from, where gender fluidity comes from,
Yeah.
where, you know, we come from a mythology and a culture that was so open. It was so welcoming. And sexuality was up there with spirituality. And I think it was colonialism and all that
Yeah.
our country went through that kind of really...
It shifted the narrative
It
for
did.
our understanding, our cultural like
Absolutely.
backlash, and just being in a box.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree with you.
So I was
And,
trying to say
yeah.
a lot in a 20-minute film, and I feel like there's
You
a lot.
did.
There's
You
a lot
did.
to be said more. I've written I've kind of jotted a web series spin-off of Two Colors of Jahan. I would love to make that at some point.
Yeah.
Please do, and also star in it again. No, it was really raw and it was really relatable. I
Yeah.
think for a lot of queer desis out here as well, worldwide. Of just having to live that double life. With your parents or your guardians, and then also having your dating life or like just your queer life or whatever, your life in general. It's
Yeah.
not just about a queer life, but you know what I mean? So it was really well done. Really, we both really enjoyed watching it, and good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. It was a one-of-a-kind experience. And honestly, that film helped me come out to my family.
Amazing.
You know, when it got out there and when it won the audience choice at VISAF, because the conversation it stirred up at the screening was so inspiring. And I had people from the Sindhi community. So I'm a Sindhi, and the Sindhi Association of BC shows up to support me at the screening.
Wow.
And so we have these members of the Sindhi community that are my parents' age, even my grandparents' age, sitting in the cinema. And you've seen it, right? You guys have seen the film.
Oh my god.
And there's a lot of provocative,
wow.
jokes in there.
Yeah.
And I had these people watching this film, and one of them rose to ask a question. And in front of everyone, she was a little hesitant, but she talked about how her daughter is a lesbian and how she's had this experience of really getting to know her and getting to a place where they can love and share and support each other. And it was so moving for me to be in that room and have this tool of film and storytelling that a woman my grandmother's age was watching
Wow.
my bare truth
Yeah.
and sharing her daughter's experience, who's like a legit Harvard professor and educationist. Is that a word?
It is now.
So like for me, it was so
Yeah.
moving. And there were straight people in the audience that came up and said that they've never seen something so provocative from a brown protagonist.
Yeah, that's another thing, like being queer, brown, and with the spiritual and religious context, to see the, at the end on the phone call, you pulled out the gods, and I just loved your acting because you were like, I'm like, you know what I mean? Like before going on the call.
Yeah.
And that's how we
Yeah.
all feel like when we're in like the queer world with our friends, we're one way. And then when we're in family setting, you were like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like we all feel that, and you really portrayed that well in your film.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say this as a joke that when I have parents coming over, I have to de-homogenize my place. Because, I love having erotic art, coffee table books, photography, all kinds of stuff that
Yeah.
kind of is inspiring. It's queer culture, right? Where we're so
100%.
open-minded and
Yeah.
we want to know, like, even the most provocative fashion. Like, I have to hide things, as we all do.
Yeah.
when-
Neery,
Journals.
I'm remembering your picture frame.
I know. I have a picture by hate copy of the two Indian women kissing, and I've had
I'm like,
some.
Neery, are you sure your family doesn't know? You have this huge portrait of two girls kissing. Like,
I'm
You know
like,
what I mean?
nah,
Yeah.
what are you talking about?
And the thing is that, we got away with, they're an artist.
Yeah.
Oh, this is art.
I
So
know. I'm
chota
like, I
hai.
told my mom it was new modern art.
Yeah.
I was like, huh? What is this?
Right?
Oh
It's
my
new
gosh.
modern
Yeah.
art, but I would also like to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like the film kind of touched a lot on these topics, and I had support of my friends and my crew that were really helping me on this journey. Like, I was in my underwear on set a lot.
Yeah.
That intimate scene in the movie we shot for 6 hours.
Wow.
So yeah, it took 6 hours to get all
What?
those shots and all of that.
Yeah.
And so for me to be that vulnerable, and as queer people, we all have body image issues. We've all been shamed. We've all been not loved for who we are. And so really kind of crossing that hurdle,
Yeah.
that mental block, that it's okay.
Yeah.
Let your love handles be on camera.
100%.
Kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Let it all out.
So, and it was so rewarding. At the end of it, it was so rewarding. It played in Mumbai at Kashish, which was one of
nice.
the biggest LGBTQ festivals
Yeah.
in Asia. And I used to be in Mumbai passing through Kashish screenings, scared to go inside because I was like, koi dekh lega, all of that. And years later, to have my film screen at Kashish, and like, it was a full circle moment, that I was able to take all of my experiences, do something with it in Vancouver, and send it back home. Like, look at this.
Yeah.
So I love being a filmmaker and having stuff to share and things to say.
Yeah. You've come a long way. And you're glowing. You said, what were you said you look like?
Oh, yes.
It was really funny because we were talking about how, like, in Two Colors of Chauhan, I have this really kind of moody, dark, melancholic view of life, and it shows on my face. And now I'm like a Ken doll, like a brown Ken doll.
Yeah, 100%.
Like happy,
And you're
dressed
glowing.
in pink with my vitamin C serum.
And you're
and
floral.
my florals. So yeah, I think when you get to a point,
Yeah.
and I wish this for everybody, that when you can start living your truth unapologetically, it will have such an impact on your outlook, and it shows,
100%. It'll shine on you.
it'll shine. And I'm not saying that I don't have opposition in my life. I still do. But there is so much more love. And that outweighs anything negative.
And you have that positive energy. Like, you've obviously done the work, and you have that like energy that you feel comfortable to talk to you. Like, I don't know, you have that.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
have
I
that.
think it's I like
Yeah.
being approachable. Because growing up, when you're trying to avoid getting bullied, you become kind of a bitch. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, you become your guards are up. You become this mean person. You don't want to confront people because you don't want to get bullied, or you don't want them to overanalyze you. You shut down. And then when you're like, if you don't pay my bills, you don't get to say what I do. You don't have a say in my life, thanks to RuPaul and everything I've learned from watching Drag Race. It's like, I'm just going to do me, and you guys watch and learn.
100%.
And we wanted to talk about that. Like, you're so open on social media with your, like, you talked about floral wreaths, which we would like to get into now. And you're sharing your mental health, like, struggles and battles you've overcome on social media, like with your beautiful videos of saying, like, brown gay men, like, can you talk about your social media videos of how you share your mental health and how that's been like for you?
Yeah, I think it was a sudden shift internally where I was like, this conversation needs to be bigger, and when you meet the right collaborators, when you find something that's a hook, I think when I found floral design, I was going through this mental health crisis, and finding something to do and finding something that keeps you immersed and in that state of flow, it really helped me. And as I've started connecting with people and started to share my story and how I feel, it just drew people in. And I felt compelled to keep the conversation going. And, I'm a filmmaker, and we love a good narration, like a good message, something that touches you. And, when you meet the right collaborators like Bhavesh, it just it's such a great thing. The videos I've been making are not mine alone. You guys are in my video, one of them.
That's
from the
right.
from the wreath making workshop. So I feel like it's a community that came together to create this visual, and all I had to do was really share how I was feeling in that moment because of how people made me feel.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's beautiful. I'm a little slow on the social media trend. Like, I'm not on TikTok, and I feel like I want to do more things in real life and impact people in real time than keep sharing on social media. But when I can, I really do enjoy the process.
Yeah, because I felt like we were obviously both attended the Sher Vancouver monthly meetup wreath workshop, which was super amazing. We all came up with some amazing creations, but just even being you like guiding that and leading us with that, and like just sharing stories, and I think there's community building in that as well, right? It was just really fabulously done. You did a great job, and I think everybody really was just like so happy with what they were able to make as well.
Yeah.
But I know that you've also done some collaborations with Ladlia as well.
Yeah, we
saw
I
that.
think I met them and the organization at the 5X panel. And we all have something we can do. And even if you can't contribute money to a cause, you have skills.
Yeah.
You have things you can put out there. So I was thinking of ways, what do I have in my toolkit? What do I have to offer that can help an organization? So I offered to create like a Ladli inspired floral arrangement, and all the sales from those arrangements would go to Ladlia. And it was just my way of giving back. And it's also great practice because I get to practice, so I'm trying to think, right? So you want to keep making stuff. And if it's going to a cause, that's even better,
Yeah.
My mom's always telling me, beta kuch daan kar de. Aaj acha din hai, if you find someone, buy them coffee or food or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to be a bit more creative with my daan. You know, I'll make it a part of my creative practice. Someone else gets to, have beautiful flowers at home, and an organization like Ladlia gets the benefit of, the sales.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I remember you even saying throughout our workshop, it really helped you through the mental health that you were going through at that time. So that was really touching as well, because I think you're also helping other people, to maybe even bring up their creative senses and like help them process, because it is a process to put these wreaths together.
I know.
You were patient.
You were
like,
so.
I'm a teacher, and you have way more patience than me.
Yeah, I was like,
Ritesh, can you help me?
Can
you help me?
Yeah, that was pretty much me and Sharon. Where I'm like, this looks interesting to me. I don't know what I'm doing, but yeah, you're very.
But I got to know you guys so much more through the workshop. I feel like I could like tell people's personalities based on how sensitive they were with the flowers they were, using, and how they were processing it. And so it really brings out your personality, and everyone's personality shines through their work
100%.
and their creative practice, So I've always I've always wanted to be an artist, and things come and then they slip away, like film. Like now I work as a production manager. A lot of my job is very operational, logistics, people management, ego management, all of that. And it doesn't feel like art until it's ready and in the cinemas. And you're like, yeah, I was part of this.
Yeah.
But you want to have something that's yours. You want to have something that you've made as someone who wants to be an artist. And I think finding floral design and the power and beauty of flowers has been a monumental shift in my perspective, because film is a collaborative art. You're waiting for 100 people to do their part so you can put this out there. All this takes is me and my flowers. And I love being in that space of solitude by myself, making. So that was another realization. Like, I actually like an art form that's a bit more solo because it's just who I am as a person.
Yeah.
So I think that's where flowers have helped me. And it's brought so many people up to me to talk to me. And I've just been able to share this joy with people. So yeah, it's a beautiful life.
Yeah.
It really is.
You're living the life.
And also just to let people know that you led the Wreath workshop in Christmas time, like, during the holidays, which is, a hard time for a lot of queer people because they're away from family. So I think that space, I mean, you can talk on that. It felt like a very like family community space. And a lot of the folks who attended felt like they really needed that.
Yeah.
I think I needed it too.
I think we all did. Yeah. Because it's like, again, I know you spoke as well. You had written an article that we both read as well, based on like, you want to have a community during the holiday season, right? Because a lot of people are here as immigrants and they don't have that family to gather around with, have good food with, or whatever it may be, right? Wreath making. So that was, yes, I'd love to hear more about that, community building and around the holiday season too.
I think it was Diwali when I met Joshna and Angit at the Diwali Fest. And I was like, I finally have something I want to share with the community. Because, you're always waiting for that moment. Teaching filmmaking is a whole different ballgame, you know, but you want something that's intimate, enough for one evening where you can connect with people. And I felt like this was it. We're approaching the holiday season. I was starting to get orders for wreaths from people. And I was like, this would be such a great opportunity for me to connect with the community and, make wreaths. So it was a good time because it was holidays. I was going through a particularly tough time because, winter gets to you, the holiday season gets to you. So it was nice to connect with people. And the friends I made at the Wreath workshop, I'm sitting with them now here. And then Arman, who I met, I'm going to collaborate with her on a web series that's upcoming.
Wow.
So, there's all these people I met and somehow we've stayed in touch on different causes and purposes. So it's just nice that you have these opportunities to extend your chosen family.
100%.
And it's a lot of work, as queer immigrants, as queer people, we are constantly seeking our people.
Yeah.
And that is a lot of work. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of investment of time, effort, love. And it shouldn't be taken lightly, that what we've built. It's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the monthly meetup space is becoming really like a family space, it feels, because it's the same people and sometimes new faces.
Yeah, new faces show up. And, there's like the last time it was painting.
Yeah.
And, so I feel like it's great that you can keep exploring the space because we have a safe space.
Yeah.
And now we can kind of really let the creative juices flow. I know the last time at the painting workshop, after the workshop was done, we were all dancing.
I know.
And I was like, oh my God, this room is so full of fire.
I know. And people were not leaving. We're like, the night's over.
So it was so nice to see people just dancing. And like, I wish I had this when I had migrated. But I'm glad it's here now. I'm glad I've come here. And for those who are about to arrive, there is a community waiting. They just have to reach out.
That's right. 100%.
Nice.
Unfortunately, we're coming to a close. And I really don't want to, but we are at the end of our sesh.
Yeah.
What a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank
Ritesh.
you. This really means a lot.
My
Like,
gosh.
it was good.
So good.
Yeah. Thank you.
You want to, sorry, go ahead.
I don't, I get emotional on these things that I have this opportunity to share and share.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm really glad that you guys are doing this, and hats off for taking the effort and putting in the work. And I hope people take away something from it.
Oh, they will. 100%. They're going to be asking you for like the login to see your movies.
That's going to be step one.
Yeah, we find a way to share it with the community.
Yeah,
Totally, we will.
100%.
Yeah.
Do you want
they
to
need reference for this episode. We're like, colors of Chauhan, Nana. And they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we will do that for you listeners. Don't worry.
Okay,
We'll sort it out.
for sure.
Thank you
Yeah.
for being a part of the podcast.
Thank you
And
for having me.
yes, did you want to share your social medias? or your
Instagram, Ritesh Matlani on Instagram. And yeah, that's about it. You'll see me posing. And showing my flowers and floral creations. That's kind of what I do.
Yeah, so just you living your authentic self life.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Lots of color, lots
Daisy
of
Ken.
joy. Daisy Ken doll.
Yeah.
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 Perfect.
Thank you so much, Ritesh, for sharing your story with us. And it's been
Thank
so
you.
nice. It's been a 360 journey for all of us here today. So
Yeah, it was great.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
On 3, we can all say bye.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Bye.
Bye.